Hi folks, with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the role of big financial institutions in bankrolling, funding and underwriting worldwide globalist activism. Now I'm talking about LGBTQ activism, feminist activism, climate change activism, all this sort of stuff, because none of it's organic. Not even the tiniest bit of it is organic. It's all funded through USAID, through a vast NGO network. If this climate change activism had to be self-funded by people giving donations, it wouldn't exist, or it would be a tiny fraction of what it currently is. So we need to understand the globalists are funding all of this, things that they claim are organic. Look how concerned the people are. No. This is being funded by the globalists with an army of professional agitators and so on. And they distribute all this money through an NGO charity network. I mean, none of these places are charities, far from it. That if they do any good work, it's just a front or a mirage. For example, there's a group in Europe that supposedly helps people who have HIV, and they're given gazillions of dollars to do that work, but they put it all into activism, all placard waving activism, paying off journalists and other clearly activist and political infiltration type work. Sure, they use the front of, but we're just helping people. It's little starving children. That's bullshit. That's not what. So, but I wanted to talk in this essay about the role of big financial institutions. Now, I just got a handful of NGOs. These were one American and three European, but they what I noticed. This is for anyone to notice. It's hardly secret. But what I noticed was that these activist groups are spending far more money than they're taking in, and they're spending money in advance. So let's suppose that, just in round numbers here, they get $1 million given to them by USAID, for example. I mean, it could be 10 million or 100 million, but for example, we just use simple numbers here, $1 million. But during that year that they get the $1 million, they spend $2 million. So they're spending money at twice the rate they're taking it in. This is their only source of income, USAID. They get a few little nickels and dimes elsewhere, but effectively it's their only source of income. They're a registered charity, but they're engaged in full-time activism. In this case, it was LGBTQ, or that was the front that they were using. So they get taken $1 million, but they spend $2 million. Now, you can't do that as an organization. They own no assets. They've got maybe a few computers and so they own nothing. So you go to the bank and say, well, look, I want to run an overdraft facility. I want to be spending money at twice the rate that I'm taking it in. Now, no, any bank will just laugh you out of the room, or they'll ask for, okay, well, look, if you want to spend more money, we need assets to back it. So we need, property that you own, or capital equipment, or something that we can turn into cash, that we can use an asset backing for the money you want to spend. Now, they're not getting loans. Well, they kind of are getting loans, I guess, these NGOs, but in reality, the bank is just giving them money, letting them spend money, banks' money, letting them spend money without any asset backing, without any income to match it. Now, what then happens is that this NGO goes to USAID and says, okay, well, look, we actually spent twice as much money this year. So you gave us $1 million, but we spent $2 million. So in the next handout you give us, so in the following year, in the next handout you give us, can you give us $3 million, because we need to pay the bank back and we now have a higher level of expenditure? Not a problem, says USAID. Now, on the strength of that deal, that cozy backroom illicit fraudulent slush fund deal, the NGO can go to the bank and say, look, USAID have said they'll give us extra money next year, 12 months away, or however long away it is. And so that'll cover the money we're borrowing or that you're letting us use. And the banks are saying, hey, no problem. No problem. Yeah, if USAID says they're going to give you that money, that is good as gold. That is equivalent to an asset. That is a gilt-edged certificate that we can use. And so that's how corrupt and fraudulent the whole thing was. That USAID was not only guarantee giving money out to these things, but it was bankrolling in advance, in the future, bankrolling the future And so the banks, on the strength of that deal, that cozy deal with USAID, the banks were prepared to say, yeah, not a problem. You can spend $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. USAID will pay for it. I mean, it's the equivalent of in some ways of students, low IQ, minus 5 million IQ students going to university and getting loans, and the government say, yeah, look, we'll guarantee that loan. Yeah, we'll guarantee that. And this is this attitude of guaranteeing activism and guaranteeing social engineering, the funding of social engineering, is what was going on here. Now, this is not just a one-off or happened sort of once over. Yeah, this is happening all the time. That these activist groups are able to engage in, change their plans on a in a day or a day or two time. We now need to do this. We now need to do active. We need to get a crowd of 10,000. They've got to print up the placards, and they've got to transport all the people around, and then pay for their accommodation and food and water and so on. And to give this impression of grassroots clamoring by the people, which is bullshit, of course. But and they're able to just change their plans and ratchet up their expenditures. Looks like President Donald Trump may get elected. We've got to double our activism, quadruple our activism. It's going to cost a lot more money, but not a problem. USAID will bankroll it for us. The bank will give us an intimate. So the banks. So now, just think about this. These groups could not have ramped up their activism and their activist, street level activities without this extra money. So they're able to say, well, we haven't got the money now, but USAID will give it to us in a year's time. So will you just give us a soft, no questions asked loan, or knowledge USAID will pay for it? And so just on the string, so that's how bankable that corrupt and fraudulent network was, that the banks would just go, yeah, okay, yeah, you can have a few more million, not a problem. We know that USAID will cover it. That's a gilt-edged certificate right there. We accept that as your collateral. This is to organizations that have nothing, not even jack shit collateral. So that shows you, in my view, this is only my view, of course, that shows or illustrates the extent to which the banking industry, the international financial industry, maybe BlackRock was at the back of it, or I don't know, State Street or something, Vanguard, whatever. So this is the extent. Now, you or I can't go to a bank. Look, I want to do some bullshit activism, but I think I'll get someone else to pay for it down the track. You can't do that. You get laughed out the room. So, but these guys were able to do it, and this was a vital, essential component of how they can ramp up their activism, even though they don't have the financial resources to do it, or anywhere near enough financial resources. The banks were stepping in and providing that bridging finance until they got the next USAID handout. And this is very much part of, I believe, the architecture of how the activist NGO groups were able to just suddenly ramp up their activism before they had the money to do it. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.